I used to be really close with one of my best friends until me and my friend group fell out. I'm going to call her Emma, which is a fake name for privacy reasons. Me and Emma used to hang out a lot outside of the friendship group together. Her mom would drop her off at my house and pick her up, and all that. When we hung out, it was usually dark, so I'd let my parents know where I'm going and what I'm doing just to be safe, and message every so often to let them know, all right. And I'd say, to let them know where I'm going and what I'm doing, just to be safe, and message every so often to let them know, all right. One night, Emma had come around, and we had planned to go to a woods near my house. This woods had a cool park with a big slide, and it was like this high-up wood climbing thing right near the entrance. And the plan was to pretty much go there and mess about for a bit. This was the first time we went in the woods after dark. We got there and had our phone torches on, and we were blasting music from my phone and just messing about on the high-up slide bit and bridges that went along the whole place area. It was getting really dark, so I suggested that we go back to mine or just somewhere else in general, as I have a fear of the dark and something felt off. As I started climbing down the ladder to get to the floor, I heard sounds near the bushes, like a tap-tap-tap sound, as if it was raining, but there was no rain. I looked other at my friend, and she must have heard it too because I mentioned it after we left, and she said it was weird. Emma came round again, and we planned as a joke to go walking in the woods at night, as a chill thing, and to maybe fuck around with dog walkers or people in the woods, as a joke, all that. We got in and went the opposite side from where the park was, like way across the woods. The park was very far. On the other side of the woods, we walked down a big path, a proper flashlight in hand, as we messed about talking about school and problems in the friend group I was in at the time. Around 15 minutes down the path, we went on a different one to a clearing, which was surrounded by the woods. As I flashed the light into the tree line, I saw two glowing things, dots maybe. I shook it off as those dog collars that lit up and assumed it was just two dogs with their owner, who had gone further up the path than their owner. We walked to the whole other side of the forest in around 15 minutes, which is pretty quick for how far we were from the park side of the forest where the main exit was, and we were walking on the side where the park was. Me and Emma had this bench next to the field, which was also surrounded by the forest, and we went there often. Emma sat down, and I flashed the torch around us, until I stopped. From behind a tree, I saw a small black figure, as if I was peering from behind the tree at me and Emma. I whispered to Emma, "We need to get on the other side of this field now." And as she got up, I looked at her and jogged across the field into the tree line, and Emma followed along. I explained what I saw, and she started freaking out a little, so I suggested we left and went to mine immediately. We began walking the path we were on, which would lead us to some exit, as I had been here many times before. I kept flashing the light behind us and around us as we walked, making sure we were alone. How I wish I hadn't. Around the 5th time I shone the light behind us, I stopped. Emma stopped and said my name, but I just stared at what I was seeing. 2 pairs of glowing eyes, flashing. Again the light, except I couldn't see a body, like as if it wasn't an animal, it was just some black thing with eyes. I even zoomed the flashlight in to the eyes, but nothing really was lighting except the pair of eyes. Now, for anyone who may be like, oh, it's just an animal or fox or dog, I live in Britain and foxes here usually run from humans or even noises, and there were no other people around for it to be some dog, since I called out several times to make sure. "Hello? Anyone there? Is this your dog?" And many other things that anyone would have responded to, but silence. Emma started walking off, terrified, but I couldn't turn away from it. Soon enough I did, and we ran across the field again and quickly left the woods. As we left and began walking down the roads to my house, I turned to her, and that's when I realized the glowing things we saw earlier had followed us to the whole other side of the forest. I haven't been to the woods since, and it freaks me out to even think about going. If anyone knows what it could be, please tell me. Guys, I would like to know your opinion if anyone has experienced something paranormal similar to mine or knows about the topic. It turns out that a few years ago, my family and I moved into a new house. The house had been abandoned for a few years, and when we arrived, starting on the second night, both my mom and I began experiencing sleep paralysis. Before, we were scared by an entity. It would scream in my ear, and I would also hear a buzzing sound. It even took the blankets off my mom. Sometimes it would turn the lights on and off. Over time, it calmed down. The only thing that seemed to calm it down or make it stay away from us was holy water. I have prayed for the entity, asking God to help it go with him, but it doesn't happen. It no longer scares us. I only feel it when I'm lying down, and it would hug me. This doesn't happen often, but last night it happened again. In the evening, I applied some holy water. Sometimes I put it on before going to sleep or before leaving the house. And today, when I was feeling sad and went back to sleep in the morning, lying face down, I had sleep paralysis again. I felt my body getting heavier and felt as though a body was hugging me. What do you think this entity could be? I want to know what this means, or if it even has meaning. The other day, I was standing at my dresser getting ready for bed, and all of a sudden I saw something out of the corner of my eye fly down from where two of my walls meet the ceiling. It landed on my dresser and rolled into a drawer that was open. I reached into the drawer to pick it up, and it was a round pearl. I was so confused, so I looked around my dresser thinking maybe I had a necklace of some sort that broke. But nothing. The only thing I own that has pearls is a bracelet that I keep in a glass jar on the side of my dresser, but the pearls on that bracelet are somewhat flat and not round. A few months before, I found a pearl that looks the exact same on my floor, but thought nothing of it and put it in the same glass jar. The next day, when I came home from school, I went upstairs to my room and found 3 flowers that had been in a small glass vase kept on my record player stand on my floor in front of my record player stand. Those flowers were from November 2nd, 2024, from my Sweet 16, so obviously they are dead. The vase that they were in was in the same place, not tipped over or anything. I asked my family if they had put the flowers on my floor, but none of them did it. Is this paranormal activity, and what does it mean, or am I going insane? In a quiet, dimly lit corner of the internet, there's a website no one talks about. It's not on any search engine. You have to stumble upon it, a hidden thread buried deep within the darkest corners of online forums. It's called creepypasta, but not like the stories you've read before. This one is different. It's a collection of recipes, each more disturbing than the last. The instructions are cryptic, often including strange ingredients and bizarre measurements. The first recipe you find seems innocent enough. Boil a pot of water, add salt, stir 3 times, then add a single hair from your own head. But as you continue, the recipes get darker. Add a drop of your own blood to the sauce and stir until the heat burns your fingers, one reads. Another, season the meat with a dash of fear. The more you fear, the more flavorful it becomes. The warnings are clear, but curiosity keeps you going. What happens if you follow them? You start to notice things changing. The taste of your meals becomes more unsettling. The room feels colder. The shadows grow longer. And one night, as you look into your kitchen mirror, you don't recognize the person staring back. You realize you've been cooking something else entirely. I am 13, and I am a normal student. At the time of this story, I was at least 7 or 8. At this point, I had been living with my grandmother and grandfather. There was nothing unusual about this house. Before the time of this story, nothing scary has happened in the house. But this time it was different. I was on my way to bed, and I had lived in the master bedroom where the former owner of the house slept before she unfortunately died. I had crawled into my bed as my parents tucked me in and said goodnight. I always had my door closed with a dim light next to my bed. The TV in the other room was also always on. As I started to sleep, I had started to look outside my window to look at the stars. I had seen something in the mirror. I saw a clown standing in the corner in my room. I instantly looked at it and it was gone. And I looked at the window and it was gone. I screamed for my parents. After that night, I asked my parents to cover that corner with furniture. And after this story, I always hear creaking in my crawl space or in my room. Firstly, I don't want to convince anyone that I really have this skill. My objective is to report and answer questions from people who are really interested/curious about the subject. In parapsychology, telepathy is the ability to acquire information about another person's thoughts, feelings, or activities without using verbal, body, sign, or written language. I discovered this skill when I was 7 years old. When I went to try a cinnamon candy with a friend, we bought it at the supermarket and we each ate one. I loved the taste, but I heard my friend say, "Wow, it's really bad." So I replied, "No, it's really good." He looked at me scared and said, "How do you know I didn't like it?" I didn't say that, I just thought it. At the time I didn't understand, and he, somewhat intrigued, spat out the candy and went home. After that, I noticed that when talking to friends, I would hear a voice coming from them when they were about to say something. I always spoke before they spoke, and they were surprised. But soon they started to treat me badly. They called me boring and weird and stopped talking to me. To continue having friends, I stopped sharing what I heard and didn't talk about it with anyone anymore. As a teenager, I managed to and have relationships with many girls. My friends who didn't understand how I could go out with a girl. I jokingly said, "When you know what the other person is thinking, it's easy." They always laughed. The voice I hear doesn't always have the same voice as the person. Sometimes it's just the person's intention or feeling at that moment. But sometimes it's the same as the person's voice. It depends on how they represent their conscious thoughts. During my life, I told a few people about this ability, and when I told them that I had to prove it by talking about something she was thinking, the vast majority still didn't believe it and thought it was some mentalism or magic trick. As an adult, I decided to use this skill to help people. I chose to be a psychologist. Obviously, I do very well during the sessions, and my patients praise my work a lot, as I know exactly what they are feeling and thinking. Forgive my bad English. I used a translator to write the text. In my language, there are no subs that allow me to post stories like this. They always delete it or think it is fake.